Even though I knew better than to think she would ever make things that easy, I still took another look around for some clue that might make sense of this situation. Aunt Rachel's car disappearing around the corner, L.A.'s bicycle, tracks through the frost, anything. But except for the ever-watchful sisters and the plumes of their breaths, there was nothing to see but the silent, sparkling neighborhood itself. I helped L.A. up and got her inside. "Good Lord," said Graham as we came in. She dropped her dish towel on the counter beside the sink and came over to us. "She must have been out there a long time," I said. "Look how hard she's shaking." "Well, what in heaven's name?" said Graham. She brushed L.A.'s dark tangle of hair back with her hand to get a better look at her eyes, saying, "What is it, dear? Are you hurt?" L.A. shivered on, saying nothing. Graham gave her the expert parental once-over for cuts, bruises, and broken bones, saying, "You're cold as a frog, young lady." She examined L.A.'s fingertips and tisked, "But I don't believe it's hypothermia just yet." She got the blue comforter, wrapped L.A. in it, and sat her in the window chair at the kitchen table, then heated milk for hot chocolate. I went to the cupboard for a cup and the bag of small marshmallows and got a spoon from the drawer, L.A. vigilantly tracking our movements from inside the blanket like some kind of captured night animal. When Graham set the chocolate in front of her, she stared at it for a minute without moving. Then her hands came slowly out from the folds of the comforter, and she picked up the cup to take a sip, then set the cup back down, making no effort to wipe off her marshmallow mustache. Her shaking eventually stopped, but she still had nothing to say. She'd never been much of a talker in the first place, but now she was silent as the grave. For me, this went straight past weird and all the way to the outskirts of scary, her just looking at me like that with those big, wild eyes. Graham, on the other hand, was a regular female, meaning there was pretty much no silence in her. She got Aunt Rachel on the phone, skipped her warm-up, and went directly to the fastball, popping them in high and tight. Immature, irresponsible, and self-indulgent, just to name a few. It wasn't hard to picture Aunt Rachel at the other end of the line. Pretty like Mom, but a little taller, darker, and drunker, probably wearing her usual boots and jeans, pacing back and forth, smoking and running her hand through her hair as she yelled back at Graham. Early or not, if she didn't already have a drink in her hand, it wouldn't be long before she was into the vodka. Graham summed up. "As usual, Rachel, you've contrived to make the worst of a bad bargain. But at least Leanne is safe here with us, and that is a deal more than I can say for her in your care." Because of her excessive intelligence and her Yankee education, Graham actually talked like this all the time. To me, the most impressive thing about it was the accurate way her words nailed you without leaving any room to maneuver or defend yourself. Aunt Rachel was no slouch herself as a yacker, but she couldn't keep up with Graham, especially when she was sozzled, and when the dust finally settled, the verdict was clear. L.A. was ours. Graham was big on the idea that the best strategy against fear and confusion was counterattack, her method being to lock in on what had to be done first, do it no matter what, then move on to the next thing, and then the thing after that. Now that L.A. was more or less okay for the moment and wasn't going anywhere, the next order of business was retrieving her clothes and stuff from Aunt Rachel's house, including her dog Jazzy, a bug-eyed little shag that Graham called a shih tzu. But L.A. refused to go with us, shaking her head energetically when Graham tried to persuade her by pointing out, pretty reasonably I thought, that we needed her there to make sure we got the right things. "Come on, L.A., it'll be okay," I said. She just backed away, one eye on the hallway, staking out her line of retreat. "Oh, well," said Graham, grabbing her purse. We ferried everything from Aunt Rachel's in the Roadmaster, L.A. brightening up a fraction when she saw me climb out of the car with Jazzy under my arm, running up to snatch her from me as I came around the camellias from the driveway. Graham and I lugged the stuff down the hall to what used to be the sewing room, where there was a spare bed. As we worked, Graham explained that in ancient times in China, dogs like Jazzy were officially designated as cats to allow them to enter the Forbidden City, where apparently only cats were allowed to go. Like a lot of what Graham said, this had the peculiar effect of filling my mind with odd ideas and new angles on things while actually seeming to leave me more ignorant than ever. For instance, I couldn't understand how a place could be called a city.